Welcome, everybody. Well, today is our next course direction, and that's going through our SAGE textbook. It's a 2017 version of the textbook. It's the only one that I could get. I couldn't get a 2018. To be quite honest, SAGE is not always the easiest to work with. There are problems with loading it. There are problems with it working on students' machines. Lots of problems with the software. And we'll just have to kind of, when things come up, we'll have to work through it, hopefully. We have no choice, basically. And just be patient if you can. That's all I'm really asking here. The problem with it is that the 2017, which is what your textbook is, doesn't work well on Windows 10 is the biggest issue. So what we decided to do last semester to help our situation is basically load the computers here at school with a 2018 version. So it does mean there is a compatibility difference. So therefore, the backup files may need to be converted, well they will, to a 2018. Now, if your computer at home or laptop has a Windows 7 or 8, this 2017 version will work fine. It's just those that have the Windows 10, which is our school, and those...
Pretty much everyone, because basically everyone was forced to
go to
upgrade,
yeah. 10? Okay. So in that case, then we have to use SAGE 2018, the software anyway. So that's our goal here, is to see if we can get through that process. The process then to download the software to your computer is where I want to start. I handed out an overview of Chapter 1. If you look at the second or first page of it, basically, there is a SAGE 2050 link in Blackboard. I'll show it to you. And I felt also that it seems that this download, here's the link. Where am I located? I'm in this Blackboard Learning Plan 5 section. Registration link. If you click on the link, the 2050 or SAGE 50 link, it takes you to the SAGE website. If you scroll down to the bottom, there is a link for students. Just click on here. You won't have to register. In your packet, there is on page 3 activation codes. Page 3. So I know the numbers are a little bit small, but I think they are readable, hopefully. What your code or access code that you'll be using, because again, you have Windows 10, will be the 2018 version. So that activation code is needed in order for you to use it for 14 months. Here again, I've had a couple of students that have put that code in, and it still won't let them use the software. So what we've had to have done is basically uninstall and try again, and then it works. So the difficulty again is every student's computer is different. There might be some firewalls there. Even doing it at school versus at home seems to me to be a difference, because if you're using the school's Wi-Fi, they might have firewalls again that doesn't allow the proper downloading process. So you can skip the registration section and you want to go right to download the software. There's 4 versions, and you want the 2018 if you have Windows 10, which is right here, the 2018 version. Which then gives you, if you can see in the lower left corner here, the Sage 50, I'm in the lower left corner, 2018 blah 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 exec file is being automatically downloaded. At that point, you should go to your download directory and double click on that exec file, which will complete the install process. So again, depending on your network, if you're at home, your browser speeds or whatever, sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes 15 minutes to do this install process. So please again, be patient. Once it's downloaded, you should see in your program list a Sage 50 Accounting 2018 version. And if you're at school here, that's what you also will see is that version of the software loaded on the computers. So hopefully that will be where it's located. So what my discussion will be about today then is this installation process. We talked about the activation code. Also with the book, there came with it, Shane, can I borrow your book? There's like this blue little folder. It says activation code with it. You actually won't need it. You just keep it closed, and basically that number I gave you on page 3 has the code already. You will also not be required to download any backup files. I will be giving them to you through Blackboard. Also, yeah. So really this blue thing is not required. The reason I'm doing that is, again, for students to go out there to the Sage website, find that resource. It's not easy. So hopefully, again, I'm trying to get it as smooth as possible. What I have on page 4 then, or is this page? I'm on page 2 now. I just show the link where it's located in Blackboard. Here we are. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Also, I show on page 2 where I would like you to use, now this screen's slightly different because they have 19 out now, but I want you to use the 2018 version to download the software. And that's the goal here. Again, you won't have to go back and get a registration or activation key. That's on page 3 of your handout. You'll have the activation code. So you don't have to register it through Sage. If you want to, you certainly can. I'm not going to say you don't have to. But all they require is your name, email address, basically, street address. But any questions so far? Here's a little better look at the activation codes. And again, use the 18 if you're downloading 18. And that's the recommended one right now at this point. It does install the software in a Sage directory on your laptop. Obviously, your laptop is in the C location. I also mentioned that you have to find the exec file to complete the installation. So when you download the software, that's the exec file you double click on, and this will complete the installation. So hopefully this download process will work for you. Again, this is only if you want the Sage software on your laptop. I do allow each week enough time to work on the Sage software during class. So it's not a requirement that you have to put it on your laptop. You certainly can use the school computers if you're here to do all the cases and also the project. So keep that in mind as well. All right, now, if you turn to page 4, I want to mention there's a difference between a live file and a backup file. The file that I'm going to give you for each case is a backup file. You learned this in QuickBooks, right? Mm-hmm. In order to open this backup file, you must restore it. It's not like Excel where you can double click on the Excel file and it automatically opens up, right? Right. So in order to restore a backup file, you have to be in the Sage software program. And it's under the File menu. Now in Chapter 1, there's a whole discussion on file backup and file restore. I'm not going to go through that process. You're familiar with that process via QuickBooks in most likely cases. The class structure is different though than QuickBooks. I'm not going to have you complete every step in the chapter, step by step. The chapter discussion will be just a 15-20 minute discussion, maybe 45 if I talk long, about the chapter itself, what to look for, and it's a reference, okay? Which then means when you get to the case questions, you can reference to the chapter material, reference to the discussion to answer those. Now the questions are geared to as if you were working for me. You're the accountant, I'm the owner of the company, I'm the person that you report to. I may ask, what is the balance that our customers owe us? So you have to go to a certain report and tell me what it is. Or what is the amount of cash that we received this month? What report do you run for that? Well, I might go to the general ledger and look at the cash account as my debit side of the entry, right? So those things are what we are trying to gear the course to. Not necessarily how to do step-by-step instructions. Does that make sense? So the key then is to restore this backup file. Now, today you are not required to do a restore. We will do the restore process starting with Chapter 3, which will be next week. So my goal this week for you is to get your software loaded to your laptop. That's number one. And that you are able to do some entries or create a new company. For Chapter 2, which is our first big so to speak, work chapter, you have to create a new company and make some journal entries. That's it. You are not going to be needing any backup file whatsoever. Okay. How are you doing?
Good.
Okay. Now, pardon?
I got it downloaded.
The key is it going to work? It's downloading is easy. The process of making it work is what we got to figure out. Again, many instructors have been complaining to me that they want to get rid of Sage 50. I understand. I just don't have a replacement yet. I asked for an online version. They don't have it yet. So they have it, but not instruction type. So what I'd like you to do now is go to page 10. Of chapter 1. And this is kind of what I like to do for every chapter. I may direct you to a certain page, and then I make some comments on it, make some discussion points on it, that sort of thing. Where I'm located now is on page 4 of the handout. And like my Excel, I try to give in the handout some important tidbits of information that I would like you to know about the software, what I would like you to know about what is done in practice, that sort of thing. If you notice figure 1-10 on page 10 on chapter 1, it talks about the system tab. And here again, I would like you, now I know sometimes you guys don't have a lot of time, but if you could just kind of review those pages that I'm talking about here, and just to get an overview or a feel for the software program. So if I'm here in Sage, let me make this bigger, it's so small. I hope I can. I cannot. Where I'm located is in the menu bar on the left side. There is a system tab. And basically, let me do this. That's such a glare here. I'm on the left side, System tab. This has basically the backup and restore area for the software program. So I can hit backup now, or I can hit restore now. Again, if you're using your laptop, basically all you're going to do is restore. Because you're going to restore my file that I'm going to give you for the cases. That's about it. You'll never have to back up in this case. Data maintenance, which is again year-end processing. There's also import-export data, make records inactive, license information. System check is kind of cool. Over here on the right side, your RAM, your disk space, any updates if you needed to do. Data integrity, down in the lower right section here, allows you to check your files. Is there corruption in them, in your data? Is there a debit and no corresponding credit because it didn't post properly? It'll tell you those type of errors within your software system. So basically, the system tab is to give you a health check of your software and your computer. So, and it talks about what's in that section on my overview sheet. Next, for chapter 1, I talk about page 11, which is the shortcut list. It can be changed. It's customizable. That's what it means by change quick entry. So if a company does a lot of billing, which they do, or a lot of enter bills or write checks, what you're allowed to do with the software is go right into the shortcuts. And here on the, again, on the left side of the software are the shortcut lists, and it takes you directly into that program area. So, and if you don't want your employees to use the certain parts of the software, you certainly wouldn't include them on the list. And that's what is meant by customizable. I can turn on and off or what order, right? Those links are shown on the software front page or main menu. So that's what's meant by a shortcut list. Obviously, QuickBooks does the same thing. QuickBooks and Sage, they copy each other, so you'll see some similarities between the two software programs. Now, is Sage 50 not existent out there? Do people in practice not use Sage 50? They do. I've heard of students actually getting jobs because they had Sage 50 experience or had some knowledge on it. It's just not as prevalent as QuickBooks. But there are some employers that do use Sage. Not many, but there are. Going back to our discussion then, what I did then, I'm not going to go through all these. This is now on page 5, the bottom of page 5. I'm following chapter 1's pages. So this is page 12. The menu bar is what I call it. If you notice here, under File, guess what I can do again? I can use this as my restore link, right? I could go under File, go to Restore, and that will do the same thing as I did before under System. So in many cases, like with QuickBooks, multiple ways of doing the same thing. And also, like System, data verification to correct or repair damaged files is also contained under File Restore or File menu bar. So, where am I? I'm just following these links on the top here. In most cases, you will be using maintain or tasks. Maintain or tasks. And obviously tasks is where you would do enter bills, where you would go to enter invoices, where you would go to write checks or make a journal entry. Tasks are where they're all located. So just review that on your own. I'm not going to go through each one and just read the PowerPoint. Under options, couple things here. This is on page 6 of my notes, I believe. Yes. Sage uses a system date. And there's also, I will point under global options what needs to be changed. I'm not going to do it today, but there are certain things once we get to chapter 2 or chapter 3 where we're going to go to the global options under options to change how the screens look. So screen look or view is changed under global options. System date is your posting date in a lot of cases. What date is or should be used for posting? It's the default, right? It's not, so if I'm entering transactions for the week of February 25th, I can put a system date of February 25th because that's today, or today's the 26th. whatever, the most common date, right? But if I wanted to post something with a 24th date or a 23rd, obviously I can override that date as I'm entering in the transaction. So you'll see the system date in your software program way on the right. Let me get back to maybe a screen here. Right here. System date. So that can be changed right there. Just change it to the proper month and year. Now, all of our cases are going to be 2017. So be careful because, again, we're thinking 19, that's what we're in. But if I post something with a 19, it's going to be in the future. It's not going to be in the current, which is 2017 for all cases. So just like QuickBooks, QuickBooks is date-driven, right? You have to be careful that your posting date is in the current period and current year. You notice here that the period is right next to it, and it also says, again, 2019. So you will more than likely have it automatically appear in the proper period. You won't have to go in and change it. So it's easy to change. I mean, you just pick a different period, and that's it. Again, in real life, you can restrict your personnel, your employees, from going in on old period by putting password protections on the old periods. So watch the date and the period for posting purposes. Just be careful with that. There is a help feature, F1 key, just like QuickBooks. So that's on our next topic area here. This is on page 7. And then, like I said in chapter 1, from pages 21 through 26 is a huge discussion on backup and restore. It's kind of cute. If I go to the software program itself, and I'm going to just clear off my ink here. I go to backup under File. Control B is the shortcut. What I always do with backups is include the backup name with the date. Click on Backup Now. Please know the extension, PTB. PTB means it's a Peachtree backup file. Does anybody remember what QuickBooks was?
PB.
Not P.
Didn't it start with a
QBB, right? QBB. This is, Peachtree used to have their own software, was bought out by Sage, but they never changed the extension.
Oh, okay.
It's still PTB.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, what happened to Peachtree? Because it used to be
Yeah.
popular back then.
Yeah, I know. But now they kept it here.
So Sage bought them all. That's good to know.
It's going to say how much room it's going to take. Oh, it didn't ask me the diskette question. For you, I just noticed that I'm not sure. Everybody knows what a diskette is, right? They used to have floppy ones.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Back in the day, yes.
They used to be 8-inch. Then we went to 5 1/4. We thought we were really cool.
And
Then they went to 3 1/2. Remember? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And they came out.
And it was hard. It wasn't floppy anymore. It was a hard. We were so excited when they went to 3 1/2. But it'll ask you how many diskettes. Obviously, that's not a question anymore. Okay. So just kind of go through chapter 1 on your own. Again, you won't be doing many backups unless you're working on a school machine and then you want to back up before you log off. Because as soon as you log off a school machine, gone, right? So all your data, all your work. So most students will use their laptops for this part of the course. That's tonight. It's supposed to be snowing.
Again.
Right? You get it? I'm trying. Okay. Let's stop here. Any